Good day, traders. Hope you guys are good. And this is part 3 of our backtesting session. We're still on Nasdaq. And before we start, I made an observation, right? So I realized that on Nasdaq, we usually have, is it like 3 trends? If you look at the daily, you'll see that we have major structures. Maybe if I can zoom out a bit, because I don't want to change time frames. You will see that we have major structures. So we have this point over here. This is our major low, a major low, and look at how the market didn't take out this major low over here, and then we have a major low. Now, I mean, we already know that in the long run, we expect this thing to go up. What I wanted to point to you guys is that within those structures, we also have a trend, right? That is also an impulse. It's a trend, but it's part of a wave. And then we have a trend that forms a correction. Now, I'll say that this correction maybe is a crash. And we have this upward movement again, which is part of the wave. It's a trend, but it's part of a wave. And then we have this right here. This was in 2020. This is the 2020 crash. At some point, it will recover, right? And look at how when the market formed a correction, there was a new downtrend. And then we have a trend again, right? Now, I'm very, very interested in finding out whether or not these trends can be quantifiable. In other words, is the mechanical way using numbers, obviously because this is controlled by algorithms and big money, is there a mechanical way of knowing where you can foresee certain trends? Why is it that the most famous investors in the world are able to tell in advance whether or not the market is going to crash at a specific time or in a specific season, right? There's a movie, I forgot the name of it. It was on Netflix, and it covered the crash of the housing market and how an investor was able to predict it, right? That's something that I'm very interested in. And like I said, Nasdaq, I think in general is the type of pair that you need to trade with context. In other words, you need to trade Nasdaq with the aid of fundamentals. So the reason why I am doing this backtesting session is just to get the technical analysis in check, right? To uncover certain patterns, but I know that all in all, I need to focus majorly on fundamentals. Let's move on to what we have today. So we also have this low over here, which is a source of liquidity, right? It's a significant low because it was able to break through structure. And what I've also noticed is that the market has a tendency, right, of forming a zone like this one over here. And that we will oftentimes have a retest, right, before the market forms another wave, and price will spend a significant time away from it, and we can get an opportunity when the market retests this for the second time, right? So more often than not, if you have supply and demand zones, it's especially the demand zones, you'll get an opportunity with the second retest. So we have a zone there. We also have a zone here. So this is the zone where we have the first retest, and we might get our second retest. The second thing that the third thing that I don't want to ignore in this session is the supply and demand curve. So right now, I don't know if this is the high that we're going to be looking at, right? But what I noticed is that if the market comes and there's a zone like this one right here, there's a zone just beneath the equilibrium point, the market tends to just retest this, especially if there are no fair value gaps below that zone. It has a tendency of coming back printing a double bottom, and then going up. So now let's start. I'm looking for the first opportunity, right? So looking at this, right? The thing that I was talking about earlier of a zone, then we have a first retest. This is the second retest. I think we may have missed an opportunity on the lower time frames where, yeah, we missed an opportunity to buy, because if you look at this right here, we have a nested 4-hour zone, and then the market took liquidity from this point, tapped into that zone, and now is going towards the upside. So we could have gotten our first opportunity from the zone based on the observation that I made earlier, right? Now, remember, whenever you catch a trade here, you always wanna take profit at your high. And it would have taken out our TP. So that was a very interesting thing that I observed. Let's move on. Don't want to waste any time. All right, so we have a fair value gap over here, and then we have this low as an area of liquidity. Now, the market might want to reverse from this level over here because we have that first retest, now second retest. Let's go to the 4-hour and see what's happening. Meaning the market might reverse from this right here. But if you look at the supply and demand curve, right, which I said we'll look at it from the 4-hour. If you look at the supply and demand curve, you'll see that we are fairly in the seller's territory. So areas where you might find buying opportunities that are valid is this area over here. And then this one right here is almost at a zone, but it's not nested. And then if we don't get an opportunity right there, we have a zone here. But the zone is a low probability zone. Why do I say it's a low probability zone? Because it's located near liquidity. Another zone that I think we need to look at if we go to the daily is this one over here, this one, right? I don't know if this one is the other one, but yeah, we'll get into that. So the first place where I place my limit order is this one. But remember, price has incentive, or the market makers have incentive to push prices lower because they can get a bargain on that, right? We can also place a limit order here, and then we can also place a limit order here on the zone right here. So let's see where the market is most likely going to reverse. This one has been broken through, okay? Right, we can get we have an opposing zone over here, of which the market has to violate in order for us to now confirm that the market is going up. But I actually do believe that prices are going down. Why? Because we have this zone over here with multiple retests. All right, so as you can see, the market violated these over here, right? And then we can also take out, we can also take out these zones over here. So let's see if this position right here gets us the take profit that we see. So first win. So let's go back to the daily and confirm my observation. What did I say? You'll often see that a zone has been retested once before departure. So the market came back for the second retest, and then now we are going higher. So that, I think, was a very interesting observation. I'm not sure how valid this is, by the way. If there's someone here who's more experienced with trading NAS, please, by all means, enlighten us. But this is what I saw, and it's a very good trade. 1:8. It's enough for you to win. It's enough for you to win your first challenge with a single trade if you're risking 1% per trade. All right. Now, let's go again and see. We have the zone over here. We have an imbalance here and here, right? Internally, we can see that we had a break of the structure over here. And then we have a break of this high over here, right? Now, again, looking at the supply and demand curve, price is most likely going to reverse from this point over here. It might not necessarily go all the way to that zone over there, right? If we look at the 4-hour, price still has incentive to push higher, but we might get a zone somewhere here. So let's see if price is indeed correcting. All right. So as you can see, we have a source of an imbalance here, and the market is reversing away from it. What's the problem? When you look at the supply and demand curve, you can clearly see that price has potential to go to the downside, to take out further orders from the downside. And also, we are not in a bias territory, right? So even if you look at the zone over here, we might get a buy here, but it's not a high probability buy because it's not located within a higher time frame structure. The high probability trade will be us buying here. You get what I mean? So I don't necessarily have a model to look for selling opportunities. I think I've caught a few selling opportunities on Nasdaq, but not as much as the buy opportunities. So for now, let's have our limit order here. And then here, we can acknowledge that we had a change of sentiment. And then we have liquidity here. So we have this right here as a potential area where we can catch ourselves. Now, if you're using this on an account that you have to be strict with, I don't recommend that you take this because, again, in context, you might find that the market is still pretty much bullish. So it's a loss that you don't need. But if you have account that you can be more flexible with when it comes to taking your trades and risking, this is an opportunity you might want to take advantage of. So yeah, somewhere here. Let's see. All right. Breaking it. Yeah. All right. Playing too much on the zone. We might get a break. Yes. Is the market going to reverse from the zone? I hope it does. All right. So the market might be forming a double bottom because we have a liquidity sweep, a change of structure. The market might be forming a double bottom. If you've noticed from the previous sessions, double bottoms are very, very common on Nasdaq, especially if the market's retesting a high time frame zone. Exactly. So let me remove this. We've seen it, it's enough. So I think I figured out how the market forms double bottoms, but I have to watch the other backtesting sessions. But most of the time you'll get a breaker pattern. And after the market forming that breaker, what you will see is the market also changing sentiment, but then coming back to retest that level like it has here. So what happens most of the time is, unlike with currencies, the market does not necessarily take this low out. but rather it uses it as a support of some sort, right? So that's another observation that I've made. But I still maintain this is not an instrument that I'd want to trade every day unless I have context. But these observations for me were very eye-opening. You get what I mean? So even here, you have a zone and a retest on that zone before a strong departure. The market might retest the zone and we might actually find a trade from it, right? Unless it reverses from another point. But this right here, we might find a trade from it. So, right, it's a strong departure. It's not gonna come back. And then we have this right here is a doji, so it's not a good zone, right? We have another zone over here. So before I move on, I just want to look at the trend again, right? So that we can identify the major lows and the major highs. Here's a major low, a high, the low was formed here. And now I think we should wait for the market to print another low. And remember, this is a daily chart. When you have a daily chart looking like this, it means you're missing out on a lot of opportunities, right? If you have a daily chart looking like that, it means you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. Again, this happened here where you had the zone over here. The market retested it. There was no strong departure though, but the market came back to test it before going up, right? So we have a setup here. This is what I'm trying to find out. No, we have an opposing zone here. Liquidity sweep before that. We also have the zone